feminist, as you all know, and I really respect the opinions of women. And that's why I'm here in this woman's only gym to ask them what they think about my brand new product, Fireblood. People often come up to me and say, Andrew, you're so tall and strong and smart and funny and charismatic and extremely rich. What supplements do you take? And I explain that coffee and cigars are the only supplements I've ever needed, but perhaps as I get old, I should look into them. So I decided to do a little bit of market research, and I was very disappointed by what I saw. All of these supplements are full of chemicals I can't name, I don't know what they are, or they're full of flavorings. I thought, why can't you have a product which is only the things your body needs? Why can't you only have vitamins and minerals and amino acids? And if you're gonna do that, why not have loads of them? I've never understood, girls, if you don't mind, I've never understood why you would have 100% of your vitamin B2 when you can have 7,692% of your vitamin B2. Along with your vitamin B6 and your iodine, magnesium, zinc, copper, all the amino acids, niacin, folic acid, vitamin A, it goes on and on. In one convenient scoop with absolutely no flavorings whatsoever. Surely, Andrew, you're a business genius. What? Who hasn't thought of taking all the minerals and all the vitamins and all the amino acids and putting them in a fantastic, easy-to-use product with no flavorings whatsoever? So I've created it, Fireblood, and we're here to see what women think of it at this Girls Only Gym. So girls, this is Fireblood, this is my product. Please give us a very honest review. Girls love it. They love it. Don't listen to what girls say. They don't mean it. They love it. And that's the best thing about Fireblood, because you know what? Life is pain. Everything good in life is going to be pain. When you go to the gym, you're supposed to suffer. Every single good thing that's going to come to you in life is going to come through pain. Your supplement, what is good for your body, is never going to taste like cookie crumble. It's never going to taste like strawberry cotton candy. And if that's what you want, you are probably gay. If you are a man and you want to be as strong as humanly possible with no garbage, only the things your body needs, then you need to get used to pain and you need to get used to suffering. And only that way will you ever become a fraction of my power and manage to achieve Fireblood. Fireblood tastes disgusting because it's good for you, and like everything beneficial in life, it's hard to swallow. Fireblood is the most disgusting product you can buy, but contains every vitamin, mineral, and amino acid required for muscle growth. Your stomach may ache a little bit after consuming Fireblood if you are a dork. If you prefer supplements which taste of cookie crumble but are full of junk, you should probably get an AIDS test because you are gay.
It's not good at all, it's very disgusting. I really feel to throw up when I'm drinking.
Do you want a supplement that makes you strong, or do you want a supplement that tastes like candy because you're fucking gay?
That's in black. That's in white. Fuck Lincoln. It's a must-have product. It's in its shop. ANC or antineocon.com. You can get that right now. Let's remove that. Now, I'm going to play Epstein Struck Out. I did this interview a few days ago. It's been on Substack. The whole thing's on Substack now. I'm going to give you about a half hour of it now. We are on Entropy. Do not donate to Rumble because they only let you cash out through PayPal, and I am blanket banned on PayPal. No, I cannot use a friend's account, a family member's account, nothing like that, because I have dedicated haters at PayPal to make sure that whatever I use is canceled. It's kind of a superpower because I can just add anyone's PayPal, send them money, and then they will be canceled. But I'm not doing that to people because I'm not a crook. But there we go. Get the Fuck Lincoln t-shirt. Here is more Epstein news. We got Maxwell supposedly talking on the 11th. We'll see how that goes. They're all making this fuss about the grand jury testimony, which is out online, by the way. We want the DOJ files. That's what people really want. And really, a lot of this information is out. It's in the lawsuits. It's all over the place. And journalists just aren't doing the research and delivering it to you. There are very few people that actually dig up information, and a whole lot of people that just repeat information once it's out. And that seems to be the case. That's the case with Epstein and many things. But here we go. This is with Dimitri K. and another individual, name escapes me. It'll be in there though. The whole thing's on Substack. It's an hour and 37 minutes. And here's first half hour.
Welcome back to Ether Hour, everybody. I am your host, Conrad Franz, joined as always by Dmitry Kalugin and returning guest here with us today. We're going to have him on to talk about some other issues, but in the meantime, since the last time Dmitry had his fantastic conversation with him, which if you haven't heard, it's linked down below, be sure to check it out. Some pretty big things.
Shout out to Jamal Gurhan for reposting this stream. If you repost the stream, I will see it on X and I will give you a shout out.
Have happened in the Epstein sphere of things regarding Donald Trump, Ghislaine Maxwell, some big revelations, the Attorney General, all sorts of things like that. So we thought we'd have him back on to break down the latest revelations and really explore perhaps where this story is going to take us. So Dmitry, how are you doing? It's good to have Ryan back after y'all's fantastic conversation together a few months ago.
No, absolutely. I'm very excited to be here. Episode 79 of the Ether Hour, when we previously had Ryan on exactly 11 episodes ago, actually, was quite insightful, actually. We had a very detailed conversation about the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein, about Guthrie as well, one of his main victims and one of the main people who's come out and exposed the very degenerate, I would say, pedomanic ring that he ran and all the other criminal activities that this particular group of people had engaged in. So we had a very great discussion. Definitely.
It's Giuffre, not Guthrie, but the speaker is Russian, speaking English, so give him a break.
Check that video out. But Ryan, it's good to have you. Sort of before we begin, given our audience is probably very well acquainted with your work, we'll have your Substack link down below, as well as your webpage and all the other resources, which I think people should definitely check out. There's been a lot of revelations over the last 2 months or so, especially from this Trump administration, who has promised to release the so-called Epstein file, whatever that amorphous term is. Now, you've probably heard the words Epstein file before. What do you believe they had in mind when they were referencing it, especially the FBI director, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, Dan Bongino as well, these really popular personalities surrounding the Trump administration. When they were saying Epstein file, what do you think they had in mind, and why do you think it wasn't released, or at least at the moment it's still in this purgatory phase?
I think when Patel and Bondi and Dan were talking about the Epstein file, this was all before they were actually in government and were privy to see anything. And they are just going off of Twitstorians or whatever. And they just thought there would be like a client list, like all the names in a notebook or something of all the Johns, which doesn't exist. I mean, I made one, but it didn't exist in the way of like, oh, they opened up a safe and there it is. He wrote down all the names of all the people that he was involved with white collar crime and blackmail. Like, nobody in organized crime or intelligence would ever do that. And this kind of list mentality is because there is a black book and flight logs that have a bunch of people's names, which doesn't imply guilt. I mean, the black book, especially, just anybody they knew ever is in a black book. Flight logs, it's like, yeah, okay, you're flying around on a plane with a guy, but that doesn't mean you're a child rapist or anything like that. It just means you knew them well enough to, fly somewhere with them. No big deal. But they're like, oh, now next is going to be the list of perverts. Like, they're not going to write that down. Are you insane? That didn't happen. Now, the other things, it's not like they're useless. They are data points. So if you have something better, like a victim actually naming a person, or an employee of Epstein or an employee of Glenn Dubin or one of the people involved, that can be corroborated by not only do you have that statement, but then they're also in the flight book and they're in the black book, then it adds a little bit to it. But alone, those pieces of evidence are kind of weak, and yet it's what they focus on the most. And I don't, for the life of me, I don't understand that. What you should focus on the most is the statements from the girls that were getting raped and the lawsuits that paid out over $900 million to victims for commercial sex and human trafficking. That should be the focus of who all was doing this and what was going on, not, oh, look, the flight logs or whatever. And there's this silly notion on the internet of who all went to the island, which it already shows their ignorance because it's islands plural, and it doesn't really matter who went to Little St. James. That's the island they're talking about, because he owned properties in the US and France, multiple locations, and that isn't where the blackmail occurred. It just think about it for a minute. Let's say let's say Epstein owns property in New York, and say Larry Summers fucks some kid in one of the bedrooms there. What's the first question the cops are going to ask? Why is he in your bedroom? Like, he's fucking a girl. Where did this happen? Your house? Why are they at your house? Why do you know these kids at all? How did they get there? So even if you put a camera in every room, which he did because he's a pervert and he liked to see himself abusing people, if you try to blackmail somebody who's having sex on your property, you've now incriminated yourself. If you go by Mickey Cohen's blackmail rules, number one is never on your own property. You always, if you're gonna engage in that kind of thing, it's neutral territory. You get them in a hotel room or something like that, and you secretly film it there. You don't do it at your house, obviously. Rule number two is you don't ever photograph or video yourself with the honeys, with the honey traps, because then you're implicating yourself. And like, why do you even know these people? And Maxwell and Epstein broke both of those rules when they took that Polaroid in Maxwell's house with Virginia Roberts and Prince Andrew, because Maxwell's standing in the photo with Andrew and Virginia, and Epstein's reflection is in the window from the flash from the camera. So that's on her property, and it's with one of the honeys. So that, I mean, these people are not.
Rule 3 is not to make electronic threats. That's a new one. It's not part of Mickey Cohen's, but you don't do it in writing, basically, which includes emails and stuff, because then there's evidence of you threatening people. You can say, I hope you have
They're not. Well, I mean, they were professional, but they got a bit too.
Hope you have a lovely evening at the thing. And that's a kind of veiled thing that's deniable. That's something the Chicago outfit was very fond of doing, was flattering you. And flatterer means the opposite.
John Gotti, too arrogant. You are stupid to take photographs of a crime, and you're really stupid to let it occur on your own property. And so when all these Johns are saying, well, I never went to the island, so that was like a place for people who are already deeply compromised went and could play, because it was too far gone to turn around. Most of the kiddie feeling and blackmail happened in hotels or happened on the John's property, never on Epstein's, because that's unusable. The best you could do by, getting them in Florida or in New York or New Mexico or Paris or Ohio, would, if you were kind of grooming the Johns, say, oh yeah, I have a masseuse, and you think you're getting a massage, and it escalates a bit, you'll whatever, and maybe you could try and get a relationship going. Maybe you could try and rope them into exchange communications, because then you'd have text messages between the person you're targeting and one of the girls or two of the girls or whatever it is, and you could compromise them that way. But if you're going to videotape a sex act, that cannot occur on your property. And that is so stupid. And the people saying this stuff just never thought about it very long. But the police are going to ask you where this happened and why it's in your room or in your bathroom, whatever. So you can't do that.
Yeah, the
That's
videos
why
they're
they
going to
are
figure out it's
honest.
in
A
your
lot of these
house.
people, like, I never went to the island or I never went to Palm Beach. Probably
Mhm.
didn't. So what? That doesn't get you off the hook at all.
Yeah, and it's this sort, like you mentioned in the previous episode, people sort of, you start believing, oh, Tom Hanks and everyone he knew was going down to this island and this was all happening and there's all tapes of it everywhere and Trump's going to post it. It's like, hold on, what? Like, there's so much
Like, you can
impossibility
hate
when
Tom
something like,
Hanks for some, because of whatever, but he had nothing to do with Epstein. What QAnon are the dumbest thing since loose change. They took a Saturday Night Live clip of Tom Hanks as one of those child pageants where he was like an overzealous father that would cheat to get his kid to win or whatever. And they clipped it up and acted like this is Tom Hanks. He's into child pageantry. It's from Saturday Night Live. And on all these
yeah,
lists that they keep releasing fake lists on Twitter, and then Tom Hanks and DiCaprio and a bunch of people's names are on the list because it's celebrities and that's sexy, and Tom Hanks is a little weird. Leo does date him young, so that's like, oh yeah, it's believable. Brr.
yeah,
The Epstein
and it
client,
conveniently,
Epstein doesn't give a fuck about Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks does not have huge political power. They were spying on U.S. science and technology. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And they would target billionaires. Even a millionaire is not really worth their time. When
mhm.
you're using Wexner
And
Bronfman money, you better be going after Bill Gates and people like that. And they did. It not Cameron Diaz. Like, who cares?
yeah, I think everyone found the Stephen Hawking connection the most humorous, but the celebrity distractions are fundamentally not only, again, are they, people use them to get clicks because of, normies want to hear about Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks, but it also conveniently poisons the well for the real
Yeah.
investigators like you. But you also mentioned, Prince Andrew, the videos of him at Epstein's, apartment in these places, he was not there. Like people think, oh, like we got Andrew, he was post raping a child, like right there in that video. It's like, no, he was probably there to discuss, some kind of leverage, or the Epstein had him there for, some kind of purpose to do something they were discussing, perhaps influence.
They would
but
sit there and get
yeah,
foot massages and stuff, which is creepy, but
mm-hmm,
not illegal. But
mm-hmm,
again, like, yeah, he could bang a girl on his property, but you can't use that at all. Like, he could just do it because he's
yeah,
been doing it. Like, they've already got him, so he might as well continue. But no, and he did not go there to tell him in person they can't be friends anymore. He went
mm-hmm,
there because he was part of the you got out of jail celebration.
mm-hmm.
That interview Andrew did was the best unintentional comedy in a long time, saying he can't sweat and he doesn't hug and stuff like that. It's just he's a horrible liar. And I
Yeah.
know Eric Weinstein said nobody's that stupid, and I have to disagree. People are absolutely that stupid.
So it would seem. You mentioned Virginia Roberts earlier, and she's sort of where we wanted to start, I guess, with some of these latest revelations in news when it comes to Trump and his sort of connection. And Trump, again, very bizarrely, I don't understand why he
Now, she
felt the
said
need to
Trump
talk about
never,
this.
as far as she knew, never messed with kids.
Oh yeah, I believe at this point that Trump, there's no tape of Trump or there's no evidence of that because they likely would have already used it. But I'm just wondering from your perspective,
Yeah, but
why
Trump
is
definitely
Trump
knew
coming out
what
and
Epstein
why is he
and Maxwell were
saying?
doing.
Well, yeah, well, I'm wondering why, in the midst of all of this, this is the Trump worst PR moment for his base Trump's ever experienced with his Epstein connection. Why did he come out and say that he sort of completely debunked this kind of Trump sycophant narrative that, oh, Trump stopped being friends with Epstein because he found out he was a creep? Trump threw cold water on that and said, no, I actually only stopped being friends with Epstein because he was poaching my employees, one of whom was masseuse Virginia Roberts. That just seems like he just why would he say that? That seems like one of the worst things he could have said.
I don't think he did say one of whom was Virginia Roberts. It was just implied that must be who he was talking about. However,
Okay.
He didn't allow Epstein on his properties, but Maxwell could still go on his properties, and it was Maxwell that recruited Virginia Roberts. They said by the spa. She did work at the spa, but she actually got her by the tennis courts, because I remember Virginia saying it. I don't know if that's too autistic, but like she had a book about massaging that she was carrying with her. She had left the spa. She's by the tennis court, and Maxwell noticed her. And she's an older lady, British accent, didn't seem like a child molesting pervert, you know. Oh yeah, I know a guy, and he'll give you money, and you can practice it. You know, they groomed her. And this is a girl who had already been abused by another older man before Epstein, that she's kind of broken to begin with. Why is someone that young working in Mar-a-Lago? I don't know, but apparently her dad worked for Trump too. But he was poaching employees, so it's like, yeah, Epstein can't do that, but his little cohort is going around doing it. Trump just needs to keep his mouth shut. Like, he is so bad. He absolutely had a falling out with Epstein over a real estate deal. He did not give a damn what Epstein did with little kids. He joked about it. He likes them kind of young. The timeline does not start with him poaching employees or when Virginia got
Tam with the repost. Thank you.
scooped up. It starts with what's his name, Abe Gosman's property that used to be Wexner's, and Wexner was trying to buy it back. Let me explain this because nobody gets this. Trump did not have enough money to outbid Wexner. He was using money from this Russian guy, also named Dmitry, by the way, that was fronting him the money. And the reason Dmitry was doing this is he was going through a brutal divorce, and he didn't want his wife to get half his shit. And so he was going to have Trump buy the property until the divorce settlement went through and she couldn't steal it, and then after that buy it from Trump, which is really his own money. So he fronted it, and that's exactly what he did. Trump ended up just barely outbidding Wexner on a fire sale. It was like 40 million or something. It wasn't his, and then Dmitry buys it for about 95 million. So Trump made a nice profit, but so did Dmitry, because if Trump had not done it, his wife would have ended up with it anyway, and whatever. So this guy was dumping his money in all kinds of assets and things, even at a loss, just to prevent her from taking things and then going around and getting it, scooping it back up. And Wexner was doing the same stuff. Like, one of the ways that Wexner would pay people was through gifting. There's a thing called GRAT that's usually for family members, but they have a way of finessing this crap. You can do a GRAT loan and avoid taxes and things. And what he would do is everybody knows this. Epstein was using Wexner's money, and then and he would wash it through his Southern Trust, and he had another company in St. Thomas, because Epstein had property. Well, he bought 2 islands, but he also had property in St. Thomas. He had a dock and some other things. And the Virgin Islands had this economic development plan that Epstein was using as a loophole, where as long as you spent $100,000 and you had at least 10 employees, and you were like furthering the development of the Virgin Islands, you got a 90% tax break. And it ended up being 96% in Epstein's case. Might have had something to do with paying 3 governors in a row. Well, he didn't pay the governor. He would pay the first lady. So, for example, he put Cecil DeYoung on a $200,000 a year salary to manage his office in St. Thomas. She was there when he brutally raped 2 little girls too, and they were like, "Why?" Yeah. You couldn't hear him screaming. She's like, "Nah, the walls are too thick." She's full of shit. Wow. She even, and we know this from an email that we have that came out with a lawsuit or the counter lawsuit from JP Morgan, that she's up there saying, here's the language for sex offenders or whatever. They changed the rules for them, where you used to get 21-day warning or leeway before you could move. and he got it changed to just 24 hours. But she's saying, here's the language of the bill. Will this work for you? Like, why are you guys asking some pervert about your legislation on sex offenders and perverts, whether or not it'll work for them? But yeah, he had half the damn government on his payroll, which allowed him to avoid taxes. Now he could just take someone else's money and they move money around, and that is money laundering, and avoid the tax. And then Wexler would pay him by like gifting him a house, as he basically did in New York. Now here's the thing people don't know. Another way he paid him was they set up a company. There's only like 3 people on it. One was Wexler and one was Epstein, to develop New Albany, Ohio. Not Albany, New York, New Albany, Ohio. It was like a Jewish neighborhood they built. And Epstein bought one of the houses there, like $3.5 million. And then the company that he and Wexler were on bought it from Epstein for like $6 million. So that was his way of Wexler paying him without paying him. It's like, oh, I didn't pay him. He bought a house and flipped it. But he bought a house with your money and then sold it back to you for even more money. So you absolutely did pay him. So that kind of crap. And that's exactly what Wexler was doing with Abe Gosman. It appears that he was supposed to buy the property back from him. And so he was totally incensed when Trump got in there and outbid him. That messed that up. And then you have Trump saying, oh, remember Russiagate? That was all bullshit. And it was the Russiagate that of the Steele dossier and all that is crap. I've said that the whole time. But Trump absolutely did cavort with Russian oligarchs, just not the scenario the Democrats had before the election. And so he's saying, oh, this is crap. This is crap. If my name's in the file, well, this kind of stuff will come out. That he was Dmitry Rob. I hate his last name. I'm not even going to try and say it. Levov or something like that. Whatever. It's I always mess up that guy's name, but DR, I used to nickname him, but yeah. And Trump and Witkoff had similar gambit where they would pay him by getting a room in Trump Tower or Atlantic City, where he owned them both. And they would rent out a thing. They didn't even have to live there or anything, but it was a way of absolutely paying Trump, was to buy a suite. And they did that with Antonio Galupchik, for example. He had a bunch of Trump properties. But what he was really doing is pay to play for it, because Trump, and this isn't just Trump, this is every real estate tycoon in New York and New Jersey.
The Kushners as well, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Kushners big time. You have to work with organized crime. And Trump did with Bob Labuti, Tony Salerno, who he had breaking up, busting the unions and stuff. You have to grease palms. And it is just so decrepit. And
I'll tell you what, I'll say this right now. If we get up to a honey on Entropy, I'll just release this whole interview. Right? So you've got about 10 minutes to come up with that. Otherwise, you're going to have to see it on Substack or listen to it.
It's so corrupt, especially New Jersey, but New York too. But I honestly think New Jersey's worse. And if anyone's interested, I did a movie called Trump Zionist Ball and Chain that gets all into the Kushners and the crazy real estate scenario in New York and New Jersey and the Port Authority and all the crap that goes on. It's just so twisted. Every rock you look under, it's like another roach with a roach under the roach. It's awful.
Alice in Wonderland. While we're on the subject of Trump, Ryan, I had a question. So there's this journalist, again, East Coast America. Apparently, he is a very popular journalist in the US, Michael Wolff, with double F, right, at the end of Wolf.
Yeah,
now, I don't need to really emphasize the ethnicity. I think our dear listeners who've been following the show for long enough can already guess. Ka-ching, ka-ching. But this particular fellow seems to be Democrat, left-wing leaning, and he has recently, especially in the last month, I would say all of July, has been releasing these interviews saying, I've interviewed Epstein the most, and I've seen these Polaroids, and on the Polaroids, and these are Mr. Michael Wolff's
Topless
claims.
girls bouncing
Exactly.
on his knee.
Yep,
Yeah, right.
sitting on Trump's knee, and they looked suspiciously of a certain age. And these claims are basically outrageous. And so I had a question about Michael Wolff, your take on him, Ryan, and also your take on Steve Bannon. And how did Steve Bannon even get into an interview room with Epstein back in the day? And what was that all about? If you could maybe explain that. Yeah.
Well, they both were anti-Trump. Let's start with Michael Wolff. So he was going to be, I heard he was going to be Trump's biographer too. And he did spend a lot of time with Jeff Epstein. So, of course, he gets Epstein's side of the story on everything. I don't know why you believe that snake, but they're both dishonest people. I mean, Trump and Epstein lie like it's just second nature to them. But
Jay Batts reposted the stream. Thank you. And Spree reposted the stream. Thanks to you, too.
Trump is not so stupid to bounce underage topless chicks on his knee and have somebody take a Polaroid shot of it that's just so dumb. Trump was lecherous. He chased around the model scene as billionaires tend to do. Not very smooth, married and cheated on all his wives 3 times. Kind of a germaphobe, for real. That's not made up. He, if there was anything like that existed, he never would have been elected, because the other criminal gang with the Biden syndicate, which is just a Zionist, would have used it on him. Michael Wolff, if he's telling the truth, he also is of the opinion that Trump is who told the police on Epstein in 2004. And that's why it could no longer be ignored. Because when the girls said it, they ignored him. But when a billionaire says it, you got to explain something if that doesn't get any traction. He says Epstein's opinion of what Trump did. That's like, well, Epstein, if you think Trump told the cops on you and you've got Polaroids of him with topless chicks, like you should have leaked those. And yet they weren't, because I don't think those exist. Michael Wolff stutters and blinks constantly. He's got all the body language of a compulsive liar. And, oh, you're just saying this shit right now. I don't believe him. And I hate Trump. He's a fat piece of shit that is overseeing a genocide. And I cannot say enough bad things about him. But evidence is evidence. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that you have blackmail like that on somebody and who constantly is fucking you over, threw you in jail, threw your girlfriend in jail, threw Purnell in jail, ended up getting Rainier in jail. Like all these jailings happen in Trump's residence, and you don't use the blackmail. Bullshit.
Hey, Substackers, to hear the rest of that, hit the subscribe button. It's only $6 a month or $50 for the year. You get 2 months off, and you can hear this and every other paywalled MP3 podcast or video. Okay. We did get 10 on Rumble. Guys, try not to donate on Rumble because I have no way of cashing out. They only cash out through PayPal, and I'm not allowed on PayPal. I've tried to reach the Rumble people. They just ignore. So whatever. But Sitting Ducks sent one on Rumble anyway for 10 and says, son, Papa, can you give me 100 shekels? Papa, 80 shekels? Why do you need 60 shekels? What in the world do you need 40 shekels for? And that would continue until he gets down to 10 shekels and then goes to his son and goes, hey, where's 150 shekels you owe me? All right, funny joke. Let's look over on Entropy. There's nothing on Entropy. All right, well then, man, we start really getting into it with Bannon, and I went over Giuffre's death. I went over more on Wexner and Bronfman and other things. That's all in there, but we got 10% of the way up. So RyanDawson.org. It is I think it's the most recent post, although there's going to be a post on the bombing of Nagasaki. It's the anniversary of that in the U.S. It is that's in August. It is August. It's August 10th tomorrow, which is the death anniversary of Jeff Epstein. It's also the same day Israel struck a school and a mosque sheltering displaced people in Gaza and killed 93 people. That's not even like news anymore because they murder people every day. Currently, they're shooting people in line to get food. Sitting Ducks for One says, fuck Israel and Lincoln, and the rest goes to your ANC donation. Yeah, you can always go directly through ANC. We have this thing called Entropy. It is a website where you can watch this video. I just put the link in Rumble. You can watch this video over there and you can donate over there, but they pay me directly. Whereas Rumble pays through PayPal, which means they don't pay. It just sits there, I don't know, in holding for infinity. But Entropy, let me explain this company because a lot of people, I'm not going to drop a bunch of names, but you know, us black sheep who get banned off everything in the dark times when all of us were kicked off of YouTube. It wasn't just me. Like decades after I got banned, they started banning everybody, especially around 2016, 2020. A lot of people got the boots. And so there was like Odyssey or BitChute or whatever, and then eventually Rumble, but they didn't have shekel chats at first. Entropy is a company that just creates a website that plays your video and is a place that you can donate to the creator. You have a chat, you can shekel chat, just like any of these other things, except they do direct bank payments. So there's no intermediary, there's no PayPal, there's nothing like that takes another percent on a percent. They get rid of that. So they won't cancel you. And they got canceled. Like they were in Canada. They had to move their operation to like Thailand or something like that because Canada came and canceled them. But they're still working on it. They have a Discord. I'm banned on Discord, so I can't participate on that. But if you're a creator, you can use Entropy too. It's really the only one that's safe because Rumble has an indirect ban through PayPal. Odyssey has this stupid crypto crap that they were going through and they were getting investigated by the Security Exchange Commission. BitChute's PayShoots in beta, so it doesn't work. Streamlabs will ban you. Stream Elements will ban you. Obviously, YouTube will ban you. Twitch and all that will ban you. Kick will let you on if you're a criminal. So, like, if you want to go around as a nuisance streamer harassing people and committing crimes on film, then they're your team. But if you're not an asshole, it shouldn't be on Kick. Like, Kick should be held liable for financially incentivizing and paying people who commit crimes. I mean, that ought to be illegal. They just don't give a damn. P. Dizzy with the Substack link. Thank you very much. If you have Epstein questions, I'm here right now. I was going to play the rest of that on stream. Oh, wait. Caribbean G just said, fuck Israel, popped into Entropy, and laid down a honey. And you know what? That's because somebody donated all of it. We're going to have to do one of these. You ready for this? This is awesome. This is also in the shop. I'm going to do this presentation. I didn't tell if it was upside down or what. Here we go. Fuck Israel. Thank you for the Benjamin Franklin. So we will remove this one. And we're going to add the next part. Everybody should clap over on Entropy 4. Oh, here's your second half.
The reason he's so pro-Israel is the same reason as all of them. I mean, it's AIPAC. It's Adelson's money. It's they bailed him out back in the day. He absolutely believes in that stuff. I mean, you hear him talk about Epstein. He was so out of touch with reality and so far removed from the common people that he actually said on camera, are people still talking about this Epstein stuff? That was like ages ago. He sounded like Ben Shapiro. Oh, well, who cares about JFK? Everyone. How could you be that divorced from reality that you think Epstein, who cares? What? It's that there is nothing of more interest to the public. Even JFK, which is, in my mind, a much bigger event. No, everyone cares about Epstein and the child rape. That's the number one issue. Is they thought you were going to get some kind of justice on that. They didn't even hope for it with Biden. Like all 4 years Biden was president, nobody even bothered them with it because they're like, that's never going to happen. They're mad because they thought Trump might, and he ain't. But they thought, oh yeah, he'll do it. He's MAGA. He's America first. Nah, he's just as Israel first as the rest of them.
Speaking of Israel first, Ryan, recently Steve Bannon, right? But back to that subject, he actually did say Trump is Israel first. I'm not sure if that was in a positive or a negative light, but Steve Bannon's interviews with Epstein, did Steve Bannon, do you think he knew anything, or did Epstein put on a mask for him? Was that simply just Epstein being sort of himself, like manipulative? And most likely Steve Bannon doesn't actually know any more than, say, yourself. What do you think is the backstory there?
Well, I assume he's got to know something. I don't know because he's, sat there and talked to him. He's got like 2 hours worth of footage with Epstein, but Epstein has every reason in the world to sit there and lie to you. Of course he doesn't like Trump, especially if he was of the opinion that Trump threw him under the bus like that. But then they were best friends for like 6 years, and then not. So something big happened, and it was not because he was poaching employees. It was that real estate deal. And Epstein was of the opinion, and I know because Maxwell had the same opinion, that Trump didn't have this money. Somebody's fronting this for him. Who is it? Yeah, it's pretty easy to figure out once he sells the property in a couple of years, like, oh, that's who it was. And if you know about that guy's divorce, and he did this in several other areas, like that's absolutely what was going on. Yeah, so like Bannon has to know something. I thought it would, the timing of this leather bound book with the birthday card was something. It ends up in I think it was the Wall Street Journal. But I had heard about that book a few years ago. It's a leather book with a bunch of different
So who did the book belong to,
famous
Ryan?
people. Well, it's Epstein's like 50th birthday present. So a bunch of people wrote him like weird notes and cards. Glenn organized it. And so they're like, she had him like, hey, write him a note. So it was in this book, right? He's going to be 50. And so they all just wrote weird, perverted stuff.
Oh, wow.
And, either Trump did or someone signed his name for him or whatever. But his signature is like the pubic hair.
Oh.
Now, yeah, Maxwell could have done that. She could have drawn a picture and signed it Donald Trump or whatever. Because what would be easier, going around and getting all these people Epstein knew to write him notes, or just write it yourself and say, yeah, hey, I don't know, some of them are real, some not. But is it out of character for Trump to draw like a naked woman and sign his name where the pubic hair is? Well, I don't think any of us can answer that because it seems out of character. We don't know the real him. He's a politician. He's kind of a pervert. I can see him doing that. He definitely went after like Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels, like whatever that story is. Why do you even know a porn star? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you know her at all? Do you talk to a porn star? Okay, well, there's only one reason you would do that. Oh yeah, I just like her company. Fucking pervert. Like, yeah, I don't think he raped her. I think he just, she's a slut and he's chasing around porn stars, whatever. He's a cheater. He's a fucking pervert. Like, but yeah, so I can see him signing that and everything. But I thought that this is what's weird about that whole story. Because I've heard about this book. It is a real book. So that it's not like the whole thing's made up or anything. You could forge something, but I don't think so. I'm putting that out there to say, yeah, I could be wrong. I mean, this is what I think. I'm telling you why I think this. What I don't understand is if the Wall Street Journal, was that who it was, or Washington Post? It was Wall Street Journal, I think. Whoever. Post.
Yeah, it was the Journal.
It was a Journal. Okay, yeah. So there is no way that you could have Trump's message and little picture he drew and not have all the other cards that are in the same book. And why the fuck would you only report what allegedly Donald Trump drew and wrote and not any of the other people in the book? It's
like a hit,
definitely a hit on Trump. Like you're motivated to attack Trump You're not motivated by justice for these girls and finding out the Johns and all of Epstein's friends, because if you're in possession of the book, then you got all that stuff and you're not saying it. So you're protecting a bunch of perverts, but you'll attack Trump because you don't like him for other reasons or whatever. And that's what Trump, or, you know, someone on his team, whatever, should have said is like, well, if you have this notebook and you're saying Trump said this and he's saying I didn't do it, you know, someone wrote my name on it, whatever. Well, what are the other names? And why didn't you report them? And they're going to have a hard time answering that. Like, oh, you only had this page or something? I don't find, you already admitted it was out of a book and it was leather, and so it's got a cover and stuff. So what's the rest of the book say? Why don't you publish that? I think someone should still ask that. It's like, well, who else is in the book? You must know. What is it all? You can only see that page. The rest are stuck together or something.
Do we
You
know who's in possession of the book as of today? Whether
Well, you
particular
know,
book
so
is, yeah.
either the Wall Street Journal, a journalist from there, saw it or has it.
Wow.
You know, it's like, oh, here, I'll let you look at it and then give it back to me. Like, it's really weird. Like, how did you
Yeah.
come across this? Is it now? I can tell you the way they could lie, but I don't really want to help them. But,
Mhm.
well, I'll just say that what you could say is, oh, I didn't see the book. Someone took a picture of the page of the book, and I saw the picture of the page of the book. Or
Yeah.
something
And
like
so
that.
it's like limited knowledge. Only saw Trump's whatever doodle.
It's like,
and,
oh,
yeah.
so I only saw this. But like, if you're saying, well, you must have seen the cover of the book because you already said what it is. It's a brown leather thing. Seen it. Some back. I cannot find it anymore. Like, I remember this story already.
Yeah.
Pubic
Yeah.
hair signature and everything. I remember being told that. So I think they're probably going to use the lie I just said. But hey, how do you know about this? And what are the other names? And who gave you this picture? And do they have the book? Like, you can keep pulling on that thread, and it's going to be very hard to explain why you would selectively say this name and not the rest if the whole point is to get justice and to know who these perverts are that were raping these girls. Like, you need to tell all his friends. Maybe I'm going to just say happy birthday, Epstein. But that isn't what those messages say. It's a bunch of like cryptically perverted crap because they all fucking knew what he did. That's why they nicknamed his plane Lolita Express. How do you think he got that name? It's not a real name. It kind of became the name, but like, they all knew it was full of kids and what he was doing. And the thing is, he's not alone. I did this series the other day on Substack. Robert Kraft, Peter Nygaard, Robert Miller, Keith Raniere, Mike Jeffries. These are 4 billionaires and 1 multimillionaire. They're all fucking using prostitutes and child prostitutes. And in Miller's case, it was a huge conspiracy. Mike Jeffries too. Like, he had co-conspirators. He had Confederates. It was like an organized thing, raping these girls, or in Jeffries' case, raping the boys. And most people never heard of Mike Jeffries. Was the Abercrombie and Fitch rapist. You know, he gave them enemas and all that. It was a news story for like a day. Robert Miller at one point was the richest man in Quebec, and he raped high school girls for decades. The hockey bag, fuck tub bandit. And you think about, like, which made more news? A rich billionaire that raped high school and younger. His youngest victim was 11 years old. Started in 1982, went on to about 2016 until his dick didn't work anymore. And then he started using toys. But which made more news? A billionaire pedophile serial rapist whose cohorts are being rounded up and thrown in prison right now, or Andrew Tate? The accusations to the Tate brothers, which they were, at least the Romania wing of it, have been exonerated from. It was all day everybody. Everybody knows that story. Nobody knows Robert Miller unless they live in Canada. Same thing with Peter Nygaard. There's another billionaire, and he raped a bunch of girls in Winnipeg to the Bahamas and did it for decades. Didn't go to.
I think I gave the example of what did you know more? Did you hear more about Robert Miller, who raped young girls for decades? Or did you hear about the accusation of the Tate brothers? Everybody heard about the Tate brothers. Nobody heard about that. But some more examples can be made. Which did you hear more about? Like Peter Nygaard and Robert Miller and Mike Jeffries combined, or Matt Gaetz? Or before that, Brett Kavanaugh, Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson. These people are innocent. I don't have a problem. I'm not one of these believe all women people. Like, I will go after these people if there's evidence. Nygaard, Epstein, Maxwell, Jeffries, Miller, Rainier, Robert Kraft, whatever. But when the cases of Cosby, Jackson, the Tates, Kavanaugh, and Matt Gaetz, they were innocent. Joel Greenberg was guilty. Joel Greenberg is guilty of everything they accused Matt Gaetz of. In fact, he's in jail with 33 felonies. No one's ever heard his name. This is what they do. Like, what all, an accusation alone can destroy you as a story. And they know that. And yeah, I know Michael Jackson was weird. A lot of singers are, but he was not guilty of what they accused him of. And so you have to be judicious and look at the specifics. And it doesn't matter, like, if you like someone's personality, maybe you don't like Matt Gaetz, maybe you don't like Andrew Tate, maybe you didn't like Kavanaugh for some other reason. Maybe you hate Bill Cosby. I don't know. I think he's pretty safe, but you cannot just accuse somebody of being a criminal because you don't like them. There has to be evidence, and there wasn't in those cases. There's mountains of evidence for what Nygaard did. He's in jail. There's mountains of evidence of what Miller did. He will go to jail, but he's dying of Parkinson's, but his co-conspirators are in jail. Epstein went to jail. Maxwell's in jail. Burnell went to jail. These people already found guilty. You can definitely safely say it now. Robert Kraft weaseled his way out of it, but they have him on tape soliciting prostitutes. He fell in love with one of them. Weird, sad, pathetic simp. But ask yourself this. How come I heard so much about the Tates, for example, or Gates, because those are recent, and nothing about Rob Miller, the bathtub, the fuck tub bandit, the hockey bags and stuff, was having threesomes with middle schoolers from the 80s into the 2000 teens. Unless you lived in Montreal or Quebec, you never heard that story, I guarantee it. Unless you heard it from me. The Lee brothel case is another one. Huge. 3,000 Johns. Big as DC Madame. No news. Why is that? There are people, for political reasons, they want to prosecute. And there are people, for political reasons, in the donor class, they want to protect. A lot of these guys, Ray Holmberg, state senator in North Dakota, was having male child prostitutes in Europe 14 different times. The new attorney general got in and finally threw the book at him, but he's 81 years old. Nygaard was in his 80s. Miller was in his 80s. When they finally get punished, if at all, they've already had a lifetime of crime. They've got one foot in the grave. They're in their 80s. All those women combined, thousands of women, lives ruined. So they wouldn't prosecute them while they were doing it. And yet, full steam ahead on whoever. And there'll be a next. What's the eccentric guy from MTV? Y'all know him. He's suddenly found Jesus. I can't believe. I definitely know Russell Brand. That guy was a sex addict, but I don't see him as a rapist. Like, I haven't seen any evidence of that, and I don't believe it. But he stood up for Palestine, so suddenly something he may have done 20 years ago comes out. Like, even if he is guilty, and I don't think he is, I want to stress that, but if he was, they let it go. And the only reason they're going after it now is because he stood up for Palestine. Let's get back to the video. Oh, and bam, Daniel McLaughlin. I think that sounds Scottish. With another 100, just says, Ryan, go fuck Lincoln. Uh-oh. We got I have a fuck Lincoln pillow. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. I did the umbrella earlier for fuck Israel, but here you go on screen from Stephanie. Let's get this. I sleep on this. It says, I got to back it up. Fuck Lincoln. I'll tell you what else. We have this. You can that is not a joke. That is a real shirt. Fuck Lincoln with a hole in his head. He's skull fuck him, I guess. Which is on this right here. Antineocon.com. You can get your fuck Lincoln shirt. It's worth it. I'm definitely wearing that everywhere in the US. I'm gonna go wear that to the Lincoln Memorial. Maybe I'll put a Confederate flag on the back. All right, here we go.
The 80s. It's like not even a story. And he knew Prince Andrew too. So what Epstein was doing is not some unique thing. He didn't groom the Johns. You can't. Like, you can't make somebody like kids. You do or you don't. You know, if you're not attracted to kids, which most people aren't, then you can't force that. It's this sickness with a lot of those people I just named, and some, like, this is just the culture. And you go to Bear Stearns, is not unique. Any of those financial institutions has a bunch of perverts that are so addicted to prostitution, because they have the money to just do it daily, that they just start to view women and girls as objects, like actually objectifying, not in the feminist, objectifying, like really objectifying people, as in like, how much are you? That was there, that pre-existed before Epstein joined. It was already like that. They trade girls, they buy escorts, which are hookers. This is just what they do. They're sick fucking perverts. And a lot of, like, Israel's so bad that it's state sponsored. That again and again, Israeli government employees have been caught in child prostitution rings all over South America, Colombia and Brazil, for example, and Mexico, and other one, where they've got like rape tourism pamphlets, because there's so many Israelis that are into child fucking.
So they travel to South America.
They will travel there and fuck a kid. Yeah. They advertise.
And everyone
in
knows about the
Hebrew.
Israelis, you know, the right of return is Jews in America going and evading justice for being pedophiles
that's
in
the thing.
America.
If
They've
you get
definitely got
caught,
the
you
laws
can-
set up without
Yeah.
extradition. You just flee back to your ethno state and it's okay.
Exactly. You guys, well, it's more of a, well, yes, an ethno state in their mind, I guess. But it's just a cult. I call them trans Semites, but
a cult state. But if you have a whole own country that, you know, they've tricked about a bunch of people into recognizing and taking seriously as a real diplomatic entity, then you can get away with so much more.
I don't even think they're unified around mythology or ethnicity. I think they're unified by their commonality of wanting to fuck kids.
Yeah, and genocide, you know, everybody
They're
within
just, they're
a billion
just
square
evil.
mile radius around them.
Exactly. It's like you have this twisted, pretty much satanic religion with Yahweh. If you read the Old Testament, probably don't ever have time to read the Talmud. It's as big as like a whole set of encyclopedias. But if you look at it, and you could read the Torah in a day, it's evil. It's sick. Now, like, who would ever be attracted to that? Like Jesus said, what kind of God does people ask him for a fish and he gives you a snake? Like, there's not a redeeming sentence in the whole Old Testament. They're like punished for gaining knowledge. He's constantly, they genocide, they flood the earth and kill everybody. They poison people, they burn people, they have human sacrifices,
I think that's
animal sacrifices.
everything going on. This is a good segue with, I mean, everything going on with Gaza right now. I want to, with the Trump thing, I think the question that, you know, the casual listener might be the most interested in, of course, is what did Trump want to hide by ordering the FBI and his people to look into what was there? And to me, it's clearly that it's something that would just further sow suspicion that he was friends with Epstein, sort of confirm what you just told us about their cozy relationship that the average person, he likely doesn't want the average person to know. But then my second question, Ryan, is in the midst of all of this happening, Trump trying to cover it up, these other things coming out, how much of it has to do with what actually is going on in Israel with Gaza and the international pressure campaign right now, if there is any connection? Because we do know that when Epstein was alive, that this was what it was about.
Well, it's been like this for my whole life. I mean, that's every president has been pro-Israel and willing to, but Bush the Lesser went to war in Iraq over nothing from Israeli pressure and Zionist neocons. You know, Obama went to war with Syria, they just went right down Netanyahu's script, like ding, 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 ding. Trump's protecting his donors. A lot of his major donors are on that list and were buddies with Epstein, whether it was through money laundering, which is definitely a lot of it, or, the other thing with the kids, or sometimes both. That's still a criminal act and that could land you in jail for life. And a lot of his donors are Epstein associates. And so what he said, he's in a rock and a hard place because MAGA will abandon him if he doesn't do anything. And they oversold. Like Pam Bondi's like, it's on my desk, ready for review. They hadn't looked at it yet. As soon as they looked at it and found out it was Israelis, they're like, oh, well, put it under the desk. But then the public's like, hey, what's in the Epstein file? Like, yeah. Like, that's what happened with JFK, too. They were talking all big, and then they went and looked at it, and they're like, wait, it's them? Well, we can't release this. I called it, too. I'm like, you're not going to get any file. Like, that's not ever going to happen. But the Hopium crowd has put the pressure. So Trump said, okay, we'll release it, but we're going to have Bondi release anything she deems appropriate. That means anything she deems worthy of censorship, she gets to decide to keep that out, which means you're not going to get anything we don't already have. You're going to get less than what we already have. Because if she's going to omit anything that has to do with Trump and his associates, it's useless.
Luke T just reposted the stream. Thank you, Luke. And Tam Spree, J Bats reposted the stream. Thank you, dude.
But that he's like, oh, we're gonna have that, and then he slides in the next sentence later, like whatever she deems appropriate. Like, okay. And Pam Bondi, remember, was part of the sweetheart deal in Florida in the first place. I mean, they rolled her hard, and then she ends up as the AG.
They rolled her hard. Bronson 6148 reposted the stream, says antithesis of Christianity. It really is, especially if you get the books, the First Council of Nicaea removed, particularly Thomas, which is the oldest one, older than Mark, actually. If you add those in and listen to Christ, it was a rebellion against the rabbinical class, the benefactor class. Christ is not king. They sat up and showed him all the kingdoms, from the mountaintop and said, this will be yours. And he rejected it. He didn't come to earth to be a king. He came to be a savior and a path to salvation, to get rid of kings. They didn't want a new King David, King Solomon, whatever. That's what Jews wanted. So when you say Christ is king, you're falling into that Judeo-Christian crap. Christianity is the absolute antithesis of Judaism, as is most popularly interpreted. Now I know there's all these different sects and blah, 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 blah. And that's not even a Gnostic thing. That is just a normal, I want to say that's the wrong word, but that is just a majority current version of Christian thing. They are for forgiveness and love and charity. Love thy neighbor as thyself, not go and conquest them. And speaking of the kings, King Solomon built a temple to Moloch and several other gods and a goddess. Like, he was a polytheist and sacrificed children. I mean, this is king, Mr. Wisdom, right? King Solomon. I'll do a stream on that later. But yeah, you got to don't call Christ king. And don't say, well, it says King of Kings on his thigh in the book of Revelations. That is not what that means. If you're a Christian, say Christ is Savior, or he is come, or path to salvation, something like that. It is not, heaven is not a kingdom. Heaven's not even a place. Hell's not even in the Old Testament. Hell is not in the Old Testament at all. They have Sheol. I know y'all don't read these books. I know it. Don't sloganeer a theology. You're either serious about it or you're not. All right, let's go.
Should have been Matt Gaetz, and they did him dirty too. Everything they accused Matt Gaetz of, Joel Greenberg was actually guilty of, which is just so fitting with the guilty of their own accusations crap. Is like their accusations are confessions.
Literally.
Once again, the pattern fits again. Joel Greenberg is, you can make a movie at how degenerate this guy is. He has 33 felonies. How are you not in jail after the first one or two? He had 33. And he was the guy that did have underage girls he was trying to use as bait at parties and stuff. And one of which he invited Matt Gaetz to. Gaetz didn't attend, at least to that one, because they have these closed communities in Florida where you have to go to the gate, say your name, and whatever. And he did it at some other guy's house. Joel Greenberg is an idiot and petty. He would do stuff like he had these like remote control sprinklers that he aimed at the public so he could spray people walking by. At one time, he caught a building on fire because he had a bunch of computers in there doing crypto mining, and they had too many hooked up, and they burned, and he set the building on fire. Like he never. Anyway, I did a whole like movie, or not a movie, like a pretty long video on the Matt Gaetz saga. But the part that's pertinent to this discussion is they had the ethics committee leak the accusations that girls had made about Matt Gaetz. Even though he had been cleared in Congress, they leaked the accusations and didn't leak the conclusions because they just needed it to work long enough for him not to be nominated so they could get Pam Bondi in instead of him. But they waited till after he left Congress, because he thought he's going to be the AG. They got him that in-between stage where you're not the AG, but you're also not a congressman. Then they dropped this crap. So effectively, they got him out of Congress, and he's not the AG either, and they smeared his reputation.
While we're on this official note, yeah.
Matt Gaetz has said, this is a foreign country. Let's not say which one. But yeah, it was a foreign intelligence. And like, gee, I wonder whether the Epstein's Jewish, Maxwell is Jewish, Burnell is Jewish, Wexner's Jewish, Bronfman's Jewish, Glenn Dubin's Jewish, Leon Black is Jewish. All his principal financiers, except for Elizabeth Johnson, are Jews. And these are all old money. Wexner and Bronfman were part of the generation before him doing stuff for Haganah and Jewish terrorist interests. But yeah, it must be Iran, right? Yeah.
No, it goes even further than that. You mentioned Lolita Express, even the book Lolita, written by Vladimir Vladimirovich Nabokov, right? He's an ethnic Russian. What's wrong? Okay, we look at his father, Vladimir Nabokov. Let's just go back. He's a civil rights advocate in the Russian Empire. He's working with Freemasons, socialists. He's actually the loudest advocate for Jewish rights in the Russian Empire. He's basically Shabbos Goy #1. This is Vladimir Nabokov's dad. His son writes.
Larry
Lolita.
Summers is Jewish. Yeah. Michael Steinhardt is Jewish.
Sigmund Freud,
of course,
essentially
Charles and Edgar
opened up.
Bronfman are Jewish. J.B. Diamond's Jewish. Robert Kraft is Jewish. Black and Vernell are Jewish. Maxwell, as I already said.
It's a coincidence again.
Prisker, Perlman, Zuckerberg, Zuckerman, excuse me, Green, Rich, Schoenstein, Steinberg. This isn't
Stephen Fry, Jimmy Savile's people, all the freak entertainment people in the UK are all Jews.
Is Howard Lutnick as well? Or?
He's a piece of shit Zionist, but he's not on the Epstein list, although he was his neighbor. So
yeah, what is that connection? Because a lot of people, even Alex Jones recently on the Tim Dillon podcast, he mentioned Howard Lutnick, how are you neighbors with Epstein? What is that, just a coincidence again?
Anything Alex Jones says.
Tim Dillon can eat a dick. He called me a white supremacist, so fuck that fat turd. Alex Jones, y'all all know my feelings about him.
Is false.
So that's a red herring, a distraction.
Yeah, because Alex Jones's job is to take a real issue and dump crazy on it and confuse people and get them barking up the wrong tree. That's his role. So, but Lutnick is a hardcore Zionist piece of shit anyway, same as Anthony Blinken. But, normally they're in some other ring, like Anthony Weiner was. And, but all these last names is, Botenstein, Rubin, Cross, these Hoffman, Andre de Rothschild. I'm not saying these to say these are disproportionately Jewish or something like that. I'm saying if you say that somebody's part of an intelligence agency and all his co-conspirators and all his main financiers, including Ace Greenberg, who put him in Bear Stearns, are Jewish, it's probably the Israeli intelligence agency. That's not a big leap. Like if they were all Chinese, I would think maybe the government of China has something to do with this. They're all Jewish. They're all Zionists. They're all involved in, like, the Bronfmans aren't just like rich Jewish Zionists. They are the head of uh, United Jewish Appeal, and the head of, their father was the head of the uh, Jewish Congress of Canada, and they started
Mhm.
Birthright Israel with Steinhardt. That is that whole Aliyah crap. Like, these people are not even normal level Zionists like John Bolton or something. These people are part, on an organizational level, part of the ZOA, part of
Yeah.
all these Haganah groups that spun off, and they keep rebranding themselves and stuff. Like,
And
this is the central nervous system of Israeli assets. Now, that's different than an agent. An asset is basically their American and Canadian counterparts, where they don't want you on, they're not going to pay you, like you're not on the Mossad's payroll or something. You're not getting out of the equivalent of like the Treasury from Israel. They pay you these roundabout ways. And it's a way of getting around campaign finance laws. Like, Jewish diaspora legally aren't allowed to send money to politicians in Israel. But you see this whole
Mhm.
fiasco with like um, Wexner and Bronfman and Epstein all finance Ehud Barak. But they couldn't just donate to his campaign. They went through his security company and paid for that through Reporty Carbine, or they did this through this and this LLC and da 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 da. And Clinton on the same, Clinton's palling around with Epstein and Maxwell. They were targeting Clinton and Ehud because
Kraft used overpaid for a Super Bowl advertisement, stop Jewish hate. And paying for advertising is another way to shift money into Israeli companies that have Israeli politicians on their payroll. So it's an indirect way of donating money to Likud without directly donating money to Likud.
Clinton and Ehud Barak were going to do the generous offer, the deal of the century with Palestinians, and they needed to make sure they owned both sides, and they did, and there was no real offer worth taking. But that's something Likud was very interested in, is sabotaging that. So they honey trapped them both, and the deal was absolute shit. But that was the target.
You mentioned the Rothschilds, Ryan, and they actually owned an apartment right next to Jeffrey Epstein's house in Paris that is 180, roughly 2 football fields away from the Arc of Triumph. So very expensive for prime real estate on the Avenue of Foch in the center of Paris, just right near the Arc of Triumph. And he purchased that apartment from Jean-Luc Brunel, if that's correct. Epstein was at 22 Foch Avenue.
That's where
And
it was. I did. Was
Hmm.
that Burnell's apartment first?
I believe
Burnell, Burnell
they
didn't
both
use
owned it or
his own
something.
money either. I mean, he came out of Karen Models from Tel Aviv,
The
which they
interesting thing is
rebranded as MC Squared.
that this Russian investigator who was based in Paris for a long time, he actually found out that Brunel's real name before he changed it, his last name was Ben Shamul, right? So
That's
son
right.
of Shamul. And that's almost a similar route to Shmuli. It's like that same, essentially Jean-Luc Brunel was a member of the same tribe. And again, what's interesting is 22 Foch Avenue, and I posted some photographs. Maybe later I'll share with them in your DMs, but you can see it's strategically placed. That apartment, it's right, there's a garden right in front of it. There's no other real estate near the Arc of Triumph with this much greenery. And so it essentially creates this barrier for cameras. So you can easily have a car or a van pull up in front of the apartment, especially at night. Maybe people can exit, people can enter. And this is what one of these Russian investigators found out. He showed different types of photographs, angles. It's one of the only places on that avenue. And of course, the Rothschilds owned property there as well. Back in the day, it's obviously extremely
Well, they usually
expensive.
transported them in limousines, not
Wow.
vans.
So
They
it's
just
high
limos.
class. That's incredible.
High class pedophiles, man. And Burnell was similar to Peter Nygaard because he would drug his victims. He'd roofie them, what a roofie is. And he would Rohypnol. When you mix with alcohol, it completely knocks people out and makes them lose their memory. and he would do that. There he had outings. Burnell and his goons and Epstein would go to Paris Disneyland and like, you know, buy kids ice cream and stuff, and and I mean kids like 12, 11. Yeah,
Wow.
they had no bottom. Burnell, you know, when Wexner bought Victoria's Secret, which I think was in '82, so one of you can look it up, but because he didn't create these things, he just buy them, you know. So, but it became $1 billion or a multi-million-dollar company very quickly because he put it in all these malls and stuff he had access to. That's when the child procurement got more professional. So you don't gotta sit there driving around the trailer parks looking for, you know, girls you can get and then getting them to recruit other people from their school. That's how it starts. Once they had Wexner's Victoria's Secret and they had Burnell's MC Squared, and then Wexner's associate in Africa.
Just putting that up to show you how little I mean when I'm talking about little kids. That's not a 17-year-old. Fucking glad he's dead.
But they have models of both sexes. They have child models in Ella Brands. So you can actually recruit 11, 12, 13-year-olds, say, oh, this from my children's clothing line or whatever.
That's something Mike Jeffries would do as well. We got a repost from Revenge Tour. Shout out to you. Thank you. You can get this whole thing uninterrupted on Substack, by the way. I am adding some commentary. If you just want the clean stream, RyanDawson.org Substack, or Dimitri K has it on their Twitter, or will soon, I think.
And get, you know, them to come to you, the best of the best. And if you get them out of, like, say, Kiev, Ukraine, where Burnell also set up a modeling agency called Mother Plus One or whatever,
Wow.
however you say it, and they, you know, would get these kids. You can still see the portfolios, and all you got to do is once you get them down to St. Thomas, is you throw their passport away, and they essentially can't go anywhere, and they're stuck. And they said this. They said they were kidnapped. They were threatened with knives. There were all kinds of things that they did, especially the Eastern Europeans. It's the American girls where they messed up. They were, you know, had a way to fight back, speak English, knew what you were saying to each other. You know, they had a little bit more pushback. And they did try to prey on like mentally ill and people that it wouldn't matter if you talk to them because they, you know, they think you turn into lizards and shit. Like they're just, it's sad. I mean, the abusing the mentally ill, that's like a new low. But yeah, Burnell would drug girls. It sucks that he never had a trial because that one really would have unraveled a lot of European pedophiles. But he died in jail, allegedly on his own. He killed himself. Their story was not as ridiculous as the U.S. story because it's not like the cameras were broken. They just didn't even have cameras. I'm thinking, why? Like you finally get this guy, super high profile. You know he's connected to Epstein. I don't know if I should say he was Marcus and some of those guys were all these like French male sluts were tapped in Brazil, and they knew Wexner. Wexner knew all these people. So did the Bronfmans.
You know, speaking of footage, Dan Bongino, I think, mentioned at some point, and I don't want to badmouth him, of course, he runs his own podcast and thing, but he mentioned the Epstein footage, and that footage that we received, Ryan, had a minute or so missing. What are your thoughts on that footage anyway? Because was that another red herring, another scapegoat distraction for the silly goyim, or how do we understand that?
That whole thing, I'm glad you asked me that. The whole thing is stupid because what time was Epstein found dead? 6:33 a.m. It doesn't matter what happened at 11:59 because that is not the time of the killing. They showed you essentially a tape that had been doctored in Adobe Premiere of the night before. He's killed in the early morning, and the tape doesn't go that long. I think it stops at 6 a.m. They find him dead at 6:33. And here's the other thing. Everything I just said, that is just minuscule compared to this. There are cameras inside the cell. 2 cameras. If you go in the shoe, every one of those cells has 2 cameras in them. And since Epstein had just recently been taken off the suicide watch list because either he tried to hurt himself or somebody else hurt him, they had conflicting stories. Epstein said he was beaten up. Then, gee, you might want to have at least one of the cameras in this cell working and watching this guy. He's super high profile. You know how important he is, and he has this giant ring. If you think he had tried to kill himself before or been beaten up, either one, you need to have a camera on him. And it's like, oh, both cameras in his cell didn't work? Really? And then you do this crap where you show the night before. It's like, and they're all focused on the minute when they change the tape or whatever it is. Nobody went in there and killed him and left in a minute. Like, that is just, yeah, goy slop. Like, they got you all focused on that. And I'm like, did any of you take the 2 seconds of time on Yandex or Google to say, what time did Jeffrey Epstein die? 6:33. Maybe he died before that, 6:20 or whatever, and they find him at 6:30. But it's after the tape that you just saw, which makes that tape irrelevant. And it makes the minute stall a moot point as well. It's not even the right fucking day. And it's like, I'm watching like intelligent people sit there and fall for this crap and fight about the minute. And I'm like, that's not when he was killed. Like in their own story, that's not when he was killed. I swear, and I'm not, this isn't like some high level research thing that I just explained. It's just normal detective work. And nobody seems to possess this skill anymore because they all just Google answers for everything. They've lost their ability to think.
Well,
It's
and I
just
think
like you can't
ChatGPT
use,
Grok brain
like
is
I said
gonna.
earlier, you can't use blackmail with somebody fucking in your own bedroom, dumbass, because it's on your own property. You need to implicate yourself. Like, oh yeah, he bugged all the rooms and they're all in there having orgies and
At
stuff.
Grok, is this true? Grok, is this true?
Yeah, exactly. Grok, is this true? Grok is woke and dumb. Like, Grok said Leon Frank
Well,
was
speaking
innocent. Leo Frank, excuse me.
Rad, speaking of more kind of basic detective work, I think when we get to the discussion of the cameras, another one of the more recent news items is been Ghislaine Maxwell's moving to this more lower security prison. Her recent meetings with Pam Bondi, certain reports say she gave over 100 names. I don't really know in what context that really means. But
Oh yeah, nice round number.
What are your thoughts on the current situation between Ghislaine Maxwell and Trump's DOJ? What do you think is going on behind the scenes, and where do you think that's headed?
She did not give 100 names. Did you see where Trump talked about giving her a pardon? Like he's thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like why has no one told him he needs to literally shut up? Like, what are we doing?
If Trump pardons Ghislaine Maxwell without some giant plea bargain of 100 names, his MAGA is over. Like they'll set Trump Tower on fire. If he pardons her without her throwing a bunch of big names under the bus, he's going to get booed everywhere he goes. Like he will not be able to get anything done.
I mean, he might have a good old boy from the trailer park that loved MAGA for 10 years coming to assassinate him. Like that's
he ain't gonna be your ear. Like they'll aim center mass and put your ass down. Like if he is that stupid to pardon Maxwell without her, giving, even if she gave up like Les Wexner and stuff, I don't think the Israelis would care that much because all these people have one foot in the grave anyway. They're all in their 80s, But he mentioned Larry Summers and he said you ought to look at some of the hedge fund managers. That's probably Glenn Dubin. And he's mentioned Clinton. It's like, dude, there's already made the damn list, based on the testimony of victims and staff and stuff. They say my list is only 10% accurate, which is it's definitely more accurate than that. But like, if I'm 10% right, the world's in so much trouble. Like these are the most powerful people there are. Period. These are billionaires, most of them. Trump cannot, like his base will never accept a pardon. Now Maxwell would love. She's going to try. I think it's on the 11th, unless they change it, and they may. She's going to try and say, hey, I should be included in this sweetheart deal, which never should have been made. Like, oh, yeah, I did all this stuff, but yeah, I got immunity. That's what she'll try in her appeal. If that fails, because they say, well, Epstein was not part of the immunity. That's why he went to jail, and you traffic people to him, allegedly only to him, because anyone else you traffic to is part of the deal, and you're just allowed to do that. Then she can start giving up names. Thing is, if she gives up too many names, they'll kill her. And you're like, oh no, everyone will know that they killed her. Like, yes, everyone will know that they killed her, but that is still less of a consequence than having her open her mouth. Trust me. And so she's afraid of dying. And I don't know if she's like, well, give me immunity and protection. She's safer in jail keeping her mouth shut. And people ask, why didn't they kill her like they killed Epstein? Because they never offered her a bargain. That's a way easier solution. Like, you don't have to kill someone if you never offer them a plea bargain, then they have no power already and they can just sit in jail. But in her appeal, she's like, hey, I was never offered a bargain. Offer me a bargain. I'll give you some names. But I don't think so. They're going to be like, yep, you know what? The lower court got it wrong, and you should have been part of this sweetheart deal, and we're sorry she's got immunity. We got to let her out. I can see them doing that. And people are going to rage because these arrogant Zionists, they're so divorced from reality. They have no self-awareness. It's like this this hostage that's like all skinny and digging his grave. They said, it's like, oh, you're complaining about that guy not having food. You know why he doesn't have any food? Because none of them have any food. They're starving to death every day. Palestinians are dying from malnutrition, and it's just they're like, oh, well, this one guy. Well, if you want the hostage, you could just do a hostage exchange like you did November 2023 and get them all in one day. But that's not the goal. They don't care. So, and that's the kind of attitude they'll have, like, oh, yeah, we'll get her pardoned. Like, dude, yeah, you do that. Pardon Maxwell. Watch what happens. If you think Kenosha and all that was bad, I mean, that you do that in government, like, finally we'll have lost all credibility. And people are just going to be like, no, fuck you. Like, every press conference, everything, like, how could you possibly pardon a serial rapist like Glenn Maxwell that did all that? There's just never, it's like, it doesn't matter unless you go to war with Iran or something huge. Any topic about anything is just going to be Epstein Maxwell. Like, you motherfucker, you did it. Like, they will, if you pardon Glenn Maxwell, the government will not be able to function because the people, that's it. Like, that, fine, it'd almost be a good thing. like, yeah, do it. Watch. They're going to lose it. We still do have a line, like you can tax us 50%, you can send us to war or nothing, but child raping, there's a line there. Like, you're going to lose your evangelicals, which is the only support you have. Even they are like, yeah, you can't rape kids. Like, you can't do it. You cannot pardon Glenn Maxwell, but they are stupid enough to do it anyway.
Do you think somebody like Matt, obviously not Matt Gaetz, he's clearly on the side of Trump, and at the moment he's very disconnected from politics, but somebody like J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, that particular group, they seem to be sort of on the side watching it all happen. And also the fallout between Elon Musk and Trump, and Elon actually, I mean, it's been a while now, right, since this has even taken place. But what do you think that was all about? Because are the tech bros playing their own game here, or because they don't seem to be involved at all in this kiddie fiddling criminal gang, right? They seem to have their own proclivities. including JD Vance. Like he's a very specific character.
Yeah,
Maybe
JD
a bit
Vance
different
is in a
now.
hard spot because he's the VP and he wants to take over when Trump's out, and Trump is just burning every bridge.
Yeah.
He's stuck. He has to support the president, but if he does, he torpedoes his own career. Elon Musk is a weird guy too. He's got like 13 or 14 baby mamas that he
Most of them are
artificially
ka-ching. Yeah.
yeah, of course. But okay, he's weird. He wants to colonize Mars, which is not possible. Maybe way in the future, but no. Yeah, and it's not just about making an atmosphere and all. Like you'd have to change gravity. You'd have to do. You cannot live on Mars, but whatever. Elon Musk's fallout with Trump was over deficit spending. He didn't care about Israel and all that. He kind of agreed with it. It was the big, beautiful bill and adding trillions of dollars to the debt. I mean, in Elon's mind, it's like, if you don't pay this now, or at least stop adding to it, it's going to become unfixable. And you're looking at a complete economic collapse. And that would drag most of the world with it. I mean, it's just terrible. My dream is for the richest man in the world, Elon, to back Thomas Massie, the only anti-APAC guy there is, with a realistic chance, as sort of like the reverse Soros. And because Elon believes strongly in balancing the budget, it's like, okay, your opinions on Israel and the war in Iran and Ukraine or whatever, I don't care. Like, just put your money behind Massie, because this is a big issue for you to get rid of the deficit. Because then serendipitously, you also get the correct thing on Ukraine and Israel and all the rest of it, because Massie's like, nah, fuck these wars. I'm not listening to AIPAC. Everyone's got an AIPAC guy. Not only would he be good on the budget, he would be good on foreign policy. He'd be like Ron Paul almost. It makes me mad because Ron Paul ran twice, 3 times actually, but twice as a Republican, and you guys picked McCain. You guys picked Mitt Romney. You kind of deserve the hell that
Hey, I was 10 years old.
Hey, yeah, but like Ron Paul was he's a trail. He came a little too early. Like the TV still had like 90% of coverage, and but Massie with the internet and with a guy that could play like reverse Soros, our own billionaire, for whatever his reason is, if he would back Thomas Massie, so he had the money, and that guy became president. Can you imagine a world without Israel? Because that's what it would be. Like, once you end American aid to Israel, they're
unfortunately,
done.
we know what they would do before we ever got close to the White House.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
There's a suspicion about the death of his wife, by the way.
I was very sus of that.
I don't think so, but I'm like, maybe, because this is,
And look, if it was true, people are like, oh, well, he came out and denied it. If it was true, what you think he'd come out and say it? Like obviously message received, right? If it was true.
I don't think it's what happened, but it's the fact that you have to like entertain, like, well, yeah, it's a possibility, because they are that sick.
They're cold-blooded, yeah. They're straight-up murderers, yeah.
They'll do that.
I mean, and look, I don't draw any conclusions. Like, it's so many things like that, for example. Like, I don't go around saying I know what happened to Scalia, but that map with the arrow on it, what the heck was going on with that? You know what I mean? Like...
Well, it was like when Iran's president, a helicopter had a crash. I don't have any evidence, but I'm thinking, if it came out that Israel or Azerbaijan did that, I would.
I mean, it was at the Azeri border. The new president is Azeri. I mean, come on.
They were assassinating negotiators and scientists and all that. It's just par for the course. And of course, Iran would have to not admit that Israel killed their president. I mean, they can't say that he forced into war.
They'd have an uprising on their hands. But I think on that same front, Ryan, do you think that some of this Epstein stuff and the timing of it, like, are the Israelis exploiting? Because we saw those Israeli figures, they got spooked in some capacity. Who was it? 3 different Israeli officials came out in different sectors of the Israeli diplomatic sphere and said that Epstein did not work for us.
He's not an agent. We're like, okay, I don't think Epstein was a Mossad agent. I think he worked for military intelligence, which is different. It's just like CIA, DIA, FBI. Like they got a bunch
So
of
that's like Green Berets, GRU in Russia, something like that, right?
military intelligence would be like, defense intelligence or something, would be the
Mhm,
equivalent. But
mhm.
he wasn't an agent; he was an asset. That's why you're paying him through Wexner, who's also an asset. It's your plausible deniability. But he's flying back and forth to Israel. That's why he needed multiple passports so he could continue to go to the other Middle Eastern countries with his other passport. You have completely financed this guy and helped him stay out of jail, like with the Tower Financial scandal and the rest of the crap. He's working with known assets. His co-conspirator's father was also an asset, Robert Maxwell, who got a funeral service, even though he's a foreigner, where the heads of Shin Bet and Mossad and all attended. That's the only other person they did that for was James Angleton,
Wow.
and we all know what he did.
Mm.
Where was I going with this? But so, yeah, like Epstein was an Israeli asset. Like they parse words and say, "Oh, he wasn't an agent." Okay, same thing, really. Like, and he even fled to Israel when he got caught the first time. He ultimately had to plead guilty to child prostitution. He went to Israel. That sweetheart deal was made. He was not even in jail. They didn't even take his passport away. That whole thing got organized while he was in Israel. He was ready to take the get out of jail free card, flee to Israel, and just be a pedophile over there. They told him to go back because in doing so and going to jail like one day a week, you got immunity for all your co-conspirators. They said anybody that worked for Epstein in any capacity got immunity. How and why would a deal like that ever be made? They didn't consult the victims about that, which is against the rules. That's why the Southern District of New York was like, we don't accept this, and we're going to try you for crimes you did up here. But in Florida, it was just, yeah, okay. He had, 18 months or something where every Sunday he was in jail. And I think at night he had to be there. He had work leave. He had the whole wing to himself. That alone, like when that deal was made, that should have been the biggest red flag ever. Why isn't this guy, like imagine anybody else, no matter how rich they were, that had done that to children, and you got 40 kids, 40, who corroborate their story and stuff, saying what he did. And he got like one count for one girl. And so you could never, nobody would stay out of jail. But this is what I told Sean Atwood. If you want to get away with a crime, just involve the Israelis, and the Americans will look the other way.
Well, so speaking of like unignorable evidence, right? Something that simply is in your face. We know for sure there were tapes. We know there was boxes of material evidence retrieved from various estates. And to date, I mean, I don't know if this is part of this amorphous, ambiguous Epstein file that, these Trump representatives keep speaking about, but somebody has these, and J.D. Vance, I think, recently told, well, at least Tim Dillon stated that he went to dinner about 2.5 weeks ago with J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance told him that, well, it's just commercial child exploitation material. There's nothing really on it. It's just regular, evil stuff. And I'm like, really? Was that the only thing on all those tapes and all that data? Surely there was obviously internal camera blackmail material, right? And for some reason, and could it be like, could we play, for example?
I think it's like I said in the beginning, like his camered up place in New York is mostly him and Maxwell messing with kids. Because if you have someone else on your property having sex with a kid, that is unusable.
Yeah.
You can't blackmail someone with that. This is just him. He likes to watch himself abusing kids.
So it's
even
personal
in Florida,
abuse material.
It's personal. And that's what they went through. I'm like, yeah, because the stuff that they record in hotels and stuff is sitting in Tel Aviv right now.
Oh.
His personal little collection is him abusing people on the massage table.
And that's probably what they have, at the FBI. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're sitting there looking at what they confiscated from his property in New York. Well, all that's going to be is cameras in his own house, him and probably Maxwell messing with kids, and it's sick. It's child porn. It's disgusting, but it's not blackmail. It doesn't have Johns. They're not doing that. You would have people coming in and out of his house, but the ones they're gonna like those AV videos, which is a misnomer because it's not really adult video. Selena Dubin's on one of them. She was 16 because her name's on the front of one of the CDs in the picture. And her mom was Epstein's girlfriend for a little while. And Glenn Dubin raped Virginia Giuffre. So did Ava. There's another account of Ava and Maxwell coming down the stairs or coming down the hallway to get either a little clickety clank of their heels. And what was this guy named Ronald Rizzo? He was a chef for Dubin, not for Epstein. He sees this 15-year-old Swedish girl like trembling like a leaf, who's just scared when she heard their voices and heard their footsteps. And they're just so mean. Like, she's working for us tonight. Like, she's working for you. She's 15. Like, what? To do what? Yeah, it's just disgusting. But that's the Dubins. Like, would they farm out their own daughter? Yeah, absolutely. But I believe Vance. Like, I think that is just a bunch of child porn for them. It doesn't make sense to blackmail somebody in your house. You just can't do that. You could record them talking about it or something, but it still would have had to have happened somewhere else if they're going to talk about it. But the stuff they did for the Israelis is in the possession of the Israelis.
So the U.S. officials are between a rock and a hard place. They cannot get the actual blackmail material because it's literally not on U.S. soil. It's all with the greatest ally. Right.
But man, yeah, but you could, it should not be an ally, but
well, yeah,
you could get Maxwell to talk by giving her a deal.
Oh,
and
do you think?
You could go talk to the victims? There's hundreds of them. There's over 300 girls who are still alive or part of that J.P. Morgan lawsuit and Deutsche Bank lawsuit, for example. There should be deposition from all these girls. Who'd you see? Who were you farmed out to? Separate them, get their stories, corroborate what you get. It was just never done. Like you mentioned the Paris property earlier. They didn't even bother raiding that until 3 months after the arrest in New York. Well, everything in it had been shredded and cleaned out by then. Duh. They didn't go to Little St. Jeffrey's for months either, or New Mexico. And the Palm Beach property has now been demolished. Oh, I didn't want anybody walking by to have bad memories. Like, oh, yeah, that's why you demolished it. Sure. You bought it just so you could destroy it, right? It's just the level of audacity, the chutzpah, it's incomprehensible. Like, oh, yeah, you bought the property and destroyed it. We have this box of tapes, but no one can see it. Just trust us, bro. And we didn't even look at the other property. We gave them months to clean it up and get rid of everything. That huge sweetheart deal that never should have happened. And then Burnell and Epstein both commit suicide in jail. And Glenn Maxwell isn't offered a deal. And the cameras are broken and all that. Come on. Like, you guys are involved in a cover-up. This is a conspiracy. And Biden did nothing. And Trump has really done nothing except make it worse. Like telling people they're dumb and foolish and how could they still be talking about Epstein? And the Democrats made it up as a hoax. Do you remember that one? Like, whoa. So you're saying you're definitely in there, but the Democrats made this up. The Democrats didn't make this up. The majority of Epstein was mildly a Democrat. He was liberal, because they're more likely to lift laws on child sex than Republicans. But a lot of people on that list are all far left-leaning Jewish Zionists. So that was his crowd. They're gonna
Yeah,
get
I
away with it.
think
But
it's
it's something like
just
everyone
part
knows,
of
but the
the.
authority is gonna act like they don't. Kind of like Israeli nuclear weapons. Everybody knows,
Mhm.
but the government's like, well, we're ambiguous. We don't know if they have them or don't have them.
And it's a key, the nukes and the pedophile stuff and the blackmail, it's all a combined multilateral front to securing greater Israel and securing the diaspora so that they always maintain the level of control that they need over their host nations, right? But Ryan, before we end this
Yeah, the
conversation, this might be a bit of a
whistleblower
meta
of
question.
Israeli nukes was jailed because Robert Maxwell helped tell on them and set up a honey trap against Mordecai Vanunu.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's all coming to a head now, and I think people are foolish if they think it's the end of this Iran thing, because it's not.
No, they're
And
definitely
I think,
100%. They're going to go to war with them again.
oh yeah, the 12-day war is just gonna, in the history books, that's gonna be the appetizer, right? And I think the situation right now, though, and I just don't want your thoughts on this in general. AI is already, we said, it's cooking people's brains, but like, what is the what is the significance of the fact that all of this is coming to light? We're getting closer and closer to potentially, people all want clips, and everyone, there's sort of a sick desire a lot of people have, unfortunately, I think, to hear a lot of the gritty details about this that isn't healthy either. But as all of those things are potentially on the verge of, as some people might say, being released, what's the situation with deep fakes and AI? Is that going to have an effect on the disclosure of this and how much of an impact it will have? Or is it going to go the other direction and more people are going to be victimized by that? How does the technology that we're seeing now impact this sort of case?
It's going to let people in the future just be like, it's not me, it's AI. Because it's going to be indistinguishable from real video and stuff. And I don't know if you've read the Unabomber's Manifesto, Ted Kaczynski, but I think what he said about technological society is spot on. Like, you got to clear your head of what we could do or should do with technology, because he's not concerned with that. He's concerned with what we will do. And what we actually do, if you think about it, well, yeah, we've peppered the planet with nuclear weapons that could destroy every city on Earth. There's a island inside the ocean bigger than Texas made of trash. They did gain of function research on coronaviruses for some fucking reason and created a pandemic, which could have been way worse. So the way we mess with science and technology, we're going to wipe ourselves out. And AI, it's not going to be used for like, oh, look, you can make a photo of your grandma come to life. And like, no, it's 99.9% perverted stuff. People doing humiliating things to each other, or stripping someone naked or whatever. Like, that's what they're going to do with it. It's like the internet as a whole. The majority of the internet is porn. That's what they did. You could be doing research. You could be learning pretty much anything, but it's just, vag and kebabs, or whatever they say. That's all it is. Bobs and vag. I don't even know. But like, AI is going to have a wave of disgusting perversions. And if you think
Well, I
porn
think it's a
was bad,
coincidence
like,
that the
imagine having
Indians are the
control over
Israelis.
someone all you need is their photo, and now they're your slave. Like, it's going to get so bad so fast. And they really need to start regulating this stuff, but they're not. And
We
again,
saw the
like,
big
if you
beautiful
think
bill,
people are
10 years for
stupid now,
no
imagine
state
how,
regulation on the AI.
dude, people already think AI is like some super smart person. It's a glorified search engine, but they're like, oh, AI said blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like one of you was saying, hey, Grok, is this true? That they are so reliant on search engines and AI that they're just going to be dumber and dumber. They will not be able to figure anything out on their own. And you won't have bridge principles. You won't have real research, because if it's not like, hey, what's the answer, Grok, or what's the answer, ChatGPT, and those things are all politically correct, fucking woke search engines that are not intelligent, that can't. It's called AI, but it's not intelligent. It just spits out.
Well, they
the
say it's
facts
a
you give it.
religion. The idea, these people think that an LLM is going to get them to an AGI, which I don't even think is possible personally. But like, it's literally a religion to them. They're once they,
it's computation. It's not
yeah.
conscious.
And I think it's
conscious.
funny, Ryan, you mentioned the Bobs and Vagine, and I think it's no coincidence that the Indians are the only people still on side with Zionism and the main supporters of the Jews and the Israelis doing all of this. I really don't think
Well,
it's a
Azerbaijan
coincidence.
too,
But
but yeah.
oh yeah, yeah.
They-
Well, those are. Well, Aliyev, I think, is just a Jew himself. So
Well, they have a vested interest tied to Turkey, and well, anyway, like AI could be used in such a useful way, but it won't be. And that's the way you have to approach these subjects is not what we ought to do, but what do you think we will do? What do you think most people are going to do with it? What do most people do with the internet? What do most people do? You have search engines and you've had them for a long time. Google, you could learn just about anything super quickly, digging through. Nobody does that. What do? Such and such celebrity nude. That's what they do.
Mhm.
Or they watch, or they.
yeah, I mean, what percent of
play
the internet
video
is porn?
games all
Like
day
an,
or whatever.
an obscene percentage of the internet is just hosting pornography. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's like half, and the other half is video games.
Not all of it is run by rabbis, but
Well, not all, but yeah.
but most.
The major ones are, and they donate to the IDF and the ADL. What a coincidence. It's disgusting.
Well,
but yeah,
no,
I don't.
Ryan.
I like, you have to learn AI. Like, it's a weapon. It's like when gunpowder got invented, and guns, like, they have guns, you have to have guns. Like, you're gonna have to deal with it. You're gonna have to learn it and use it to the best of your ability for defense or whatever. But it's a disaster. I mean, it's out of control. The level of abuse you can do to people with AI, I can't imagine being a adolescent or teenager right now. Like, you're fucked. It's getting to the point where, like, don't put your picture on the internet, because you're basically just asking to be anyone's slave at that point. Digitally, they can make you do anything and laugh at it and whatever and spread it around. It's going to be funny. Imagine when the West starts wearing veils and stuff like the Muslims to protect girls' faces or your wife or whatever, because if somebody gets their photo,
Wow.
they can abuse the shit out of her, like, I'm fucking your wife. And you can use her voice and everything. Like, you will be able to copy everything from a person. You could have her husband in the corner crying and sucking his thumb as you did, virtually fuck his wife, and she screams your name in her voice. And like, AI can do that. AI, like, and that's exactly what people are going to do, is they're going to use it for abuse and perversion. That's where we're headed. And there's no real walls. They're like, oh, well, as long as it's legal somewhere, they'll just VPN the air and then do it more. Like, they're doing some laws in South Korea about it, where it's a pretty strict punishment if you do deep fake kissing or deep fake whatever. But you think about it, like, the advertisers they had on AI was like, hey, get a picture of whoever you want and make them kiss you. Like, there should have been outrage about that. And there wasn't, because everyone's like, well, I want to do that. Fucking gross.
Well,
Like, think about it. Think what's going to happen to kids, your own wife or husband, and your own children. You don't want their yearbook photo out there, because look what they can do. Disgusting.
Ryan, it's been a great episode, and we understand who steers the cultural ship towards degeneracy, and so the worst things out of AI will most likely happen, especially in a culture which is controlled by
It's
the most pious, the
6.0.
nation of priests, right? So while the nation of priests rules culture and mass media, AI is going to go into the worst versions of itself. But speaking about the Epstein matter, and a lot of our listeners will probably follow the case long after this episode is released, and they'll probably listen back. Are there any legal matters that people maybe should look up or follow? Are there any people who you'd think we'd keep our listeners should
Yes.
look into, besides yourself, of course, and your updates on the Epstein files? And
I don't know
the
about like
case itself,
influencers
yeah.
and researchers. What you need to pay attention
Mhm.
to with the Epstein case is Stacey Plaskett. There
Okay.
is an ongoing trial. She is the U.S. representative, the delegate to Congress from the Virgin Islands. She did not get immunity because she stupidly went to New York and solicited funds from Epstein in New York. So it's under their jurisdiction. And that case, this was They said this is going to trial as recently as March 2025. So, and this is kind of the last one, but it does, in her case, talk about co-conspirators for commercial sex purposes. So we absolutely cannot allow this to be thrown out in appeals or allow her to weasel out under the sweetheart deal or whatever. This has to go to trial, and she has to be in a position where she starts giving out names because she doesn't want to go to jail. Stacey Plaskett, and that is an ongoing live lawsuit or criminal case that where we could get some names and we can pull on that thread. That's what's and then there's Maxwell's appeal, I guess. But Stacey Plaskett's the big one that you want to follow up.
Excellent. No, thank you very much for giving that. And Ryan, we're going to have all of your links in the description below. Thank you very much for joining us and giving us essentially this surprise part 2. I think it's a surprise because, well, so many revelations, I suppose, came forth over the last few months, but we really appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you to all the great listeners, our supporters, subscribers, those who have listened to the very end. Check out Ryan's content below in the description. And thank you again for supporting the show.
That was the second time on that show, and they're very patient. Let me talk. Good couple of co-hosts there. Going over to Rumble, just looking at it. P1 Dizzy spamming the link. Store is antineocon.com. RyanDawson.org that you see on the screen is the Substack. Substack is where people put articles, videos, MP3s, all the stuff is there. Good news on the movie. We finished 3 hours and 24 minutes of it, and all my work on it is done. It's in the visual department. Well, my work isn't done. I got to go promote it and private screen it and that, but the making part of it is finished. It's going to be the definitive nail in the coffin on 9/11, and I decided to do a separate movie on the Iraq War because it really deserves. I mean, where they overlap, it's in there, but it deserves its own separate film. And I don't want to make this one too long, like 5 hours like the last one, so we cut all that. But it is over 3 hours long. Sorry, but 9/11 is a complicated topic, and there are a lot of criminals and a lot of cover up. But I think if you start watching it, you'll end up watching the whole thing. If you enjoyed New Mech, which is 90 minutes, it's a couple of those. Ooh, someone asked about the eye. Oh, as you notice, I'm not wearing glasses. I am no longer getting ultra bright light from screens. I do put like a towel on my screen. I can see through it, but like a paper towel, it does reduce it some. No, these anti-Vegas shots seem to be working now. Of course, I said that last time, and they'll only last about 2 or 3 months. It is what it is. The stem cell thing, it doesn't matter. I'm exploring that. That's going to be done, but I have to go either to the Philippines or Panama or somewhere like that to get the embryonic stem cell. It's the only one that potentially could work. The longer I delay it, the better they get at it. So I'm going to continue these anti-Vegas shots for a bit because I'm not really free to travel yet. And then I will probably go to the Philippines because it's closer. So that's what's going on with the eye. And anyone else that's got wet macular degeneration, there is some promising work being done in stem cells, but right now it's about 50-50, and that you don't want to blow like 10 grand on a maybe. It's advancing rapidly. So if you can see, maybe delay for a while. If your anti-Vegas shots are no longer working, or you're having to get them every month or something, or every 2 weeks, then you might want to consider just go ahead and risk the stem cells because it could possibly cure it. Can you imagine being anti-stem cell? Like, so much has come from that. There's a lot of potential there. I wish we put money in that instead of the Iraq War. I wish we put trillions of dollars in groundbreaking medicine and things like that instead of propping up the genocidal state of Israel to murder their neighbors and start conflicts in Iraq and Syria and Libya and Palestine and Lebanon and bombing Iran. All that death would not only have been prevented, but that money could have gone to research. That money could have just not been taxed in the first place. We wouldn't have a $35 trillion deficit or whatever it is right now. And who holds that debt? Other countries and individuals, maybe 20% for Social Security, because the Social Security trust fund is not a trust fund because the trust isn't based on liquid or assets, it's based on IOUs, which means it's just debt with more debt. You know, the IOUs are going to have to come from, you know, cutting spending, raising taxes, or borrowing money. And of course, they choose to borrow money and make it worse. Thomas Massie's our way out. I really realistically do not see voting harder or whatever. It's Massie is the guy. The rest of them suck. We need someone like that in the White House because the majority of the government's appointed. And if he got in there and picked a based cabinet, so many criminals would go to jail. So much crime and war would end. America really could lead the world and do a lot of good if it didn't have a parasite controlling everything. Dude, colloidal silver, so that is not. First, I'm not even. Macular degeneration is not even in the eye. It's behind the eye. It's like a vein pushing on the back of your retina that warps your vision. It's not even in your eye. That's why it's so hard to get at unless you take your eyeball out of your head. Home remedies and stuff are fine for minor things. This is not like the connection between that and colloidal silver would be like if you break your leg, you know, massage your ears or something. It doesn't, there's no relationship. Sorry, I'm just like, I know you mean well, but you're dumb. All right. I've covered entropy. I've covered Rumble. Okay, well, we will see you on the next one. I will be going to the U.S. on the 15th. We're going to do a private screening of the new Empire en Masse. I think we're going to call it the Terrorist Industrial Complex, TIC. And see, we'll let you roll that name around. I think that's what we're going to go with, though. Terrorist or Terrorism Industrial Complex. This is really what it is. They manufacture terrorists. They did it in ISIS. They did it with Al Qaeda. They've done it with all these little minor groups. All of them have covert state sponsorship. And that's how this, if I could stress something the most, this is how the world works. These are not organic groups that just formulated themselves and rebelled because they're mad about what. No. These are professionally financed by states, and they throw them at one another. It was their covert way of attacking places during the Cold War of mutual destruction by nuclear bombs. Massie 2028. Yeah. They should impeach Trump. That's the other way. Maybe Vance would be better. We got to put pressure on the files. You have to put pressure on them not throwing out the Stacey Plaskett case. Because in that case, it names them co-conspirators, commercial sex trafficking, plural. There are Johns involved in that. It's all up to the judge and the courts. And there's just so much pressure from these billionaires. They don't want to go down. It's going to take a really concerted, combined effort from the public to say, no, do not throw this case out. There has to be consequences. And unfortunately, the plebs really don't have a card to play other than the potential for violence, which you're not allowed to say. But really, they have no other power. The only thing they're really worried about is you chimping out. They don't care who you vote for. They control that. Yeah, Orange Man bad. He's still better than Biden. You think Genocide Joe would have done anything different on Gaza? He let them die. He didn't care. He started the war in Ukraine, and he aided ISIS in Syria with Obama. It's not a Trump thing, Biden thing. It's all of them. You could argue, oh, well, Trump's a smidgen better. At least we don't have paper straws and rainbow flags everywhere. Like culturally and on some domestic things, fine, improve a little bit. But on the major topics, the national debt, the war in Ukraine, the genocide in Gaza, conflict with Iran, and all the sanctions, there's no difference. Even immigration, there's barely a difference. It's I guess the difference lies in the base. Biden was president for 4 years. Nobody even bothered him about Epstein because all of us knew he will never. At least with Trump, his backers are like, hey, release the files, and pressure has happened. He's not going to release him either, but it's like there's resistance now because so many people hate him. And it's harder for him to get a war than Biden. Biden could do it and the Democrats would clap. But if Trump does it, not only will the Democrats oppose it, a lot of MAGA will oppose it too. And so it's harder for a Republican to get these things done, which is why it's better for them to be in charge than the other side. But morally and all, they're all the same. Okay, now we'll see you tomorrow. Let's out with... what do I have here? Let's go with the woke and gay song.
Welcome to the woke and gay. Transformers are in charge, hey, hey. The girls' room is full of men. They're grooming your children. Or we'll just let a migrant steal them, because Christians will forgive them. Now put on your mask and stick your head up your ass. Pedro and Manuel need a free hotel. We will give you the fill. Now take this pill and chill. You can't even sell lemonade, but here's a naked parade. Your streets look like human vermin, but at least you're not all speaking German. Welcome to the woke and gay. Letting people rob stores is okay. Remember, if you need to get mad, it's Russia and Iran that are bad. So pay for these wars and let the queers and whores spread their hate every day. Welcome to the woke and gay. Pedophiles run the BBC, but manliest is your enemy. A Smurf man making fun of Christ. Bearded drag queens, ain't it nice? Tell me again, there is no hope, because that rooftop had a slope. It's woke